how many times have we said this about this Danny Rohl Rangers team now? They just seem to find a way to win games, and by full time, it's a 3-0 victory, 8 wins in the trot. Tavernier gets his 100th league goal, and most importantly, they've closed the gap again at the top of the league in the title race.
What did the new boys look like, Scott?
Look, they didn't do too much. I think they were on for like 50 odd minutes each. They actually Chukwuani scored a goal in the first half that was ruled out for offside, and it was a cracking ball for Skov Olsen right on his head at the back post. So that was their kind of best moment. Obviously the goal get chopped off. Chukwuani did the kind of simple things quite well in midfield. He didn't just sit though as a deep line midfielder. Raskin was kind of behind him most of the time. So he actually showed something that maybe people didn't expect for his game. He was trying to drive forward, get into kind of attacking areas, as he showed with the header that he scored from. Skov Olsen took a while for him to get into the game, but he did have a hand in the kind of build up to the penalty incident, which got Rangers in front. So look, just spoke to Danny Rohl. He was asked about them. Quite rightly saying it's going to take them time. I think these guys are good players, obviously, but in terms of finding a rhythm, and you could tell actually when the subs came on the day. Danny Rohl mentioned this. He brought subs on who have been with him a long time now and know exactly what he wants from them. So the subs actually improved Rangers when they came on. Heads getting the 2 goals at the end.
We've just been debating, Scott, a few things about Rangers, namely who they should and might still bring in before the end of the January transfer window. Gary is one of a few people in the comments saying Rangers need to bring in another striker, a centre-back and maybe a central midfielder. What's your thoughts on that?
I think in a perfect world, Daniel, that's exactly what Rangers would do. I think those are the 3 positions. I think they probably still need a bit more cover at centre-back, especially if you think John Souttar's out at the moment injured. Cornelius is still injured as well. In midfield, I think they would be okay if it wasn't for Connor Barron's injury. I think that's thrown a kind of spanner in the works. Danny Rohl mentioned the other day probably would like to add another midfielder in there if they can. And I think the big one is the striker or attacker, as the manager kind of keeps saying. I don't think necessarily it will be an out-and-out centre forward. I think he'd quite like, he mentioned the other day actually, he'd quite like someone to play across all 3 positions up front. And I was at the press conference and I must admit I immediately thought of Masvanisi, obviously at Motherwell, who's capable of that. He can play right, left, or through the middle. Now, it might not be him, but I think he's determined to try and get another attacking player, and just to give him another kind of weapon. In the final third, he's confident that Skov Olsen's going to give them something different when he gets up to speed, and I'm sure he will. But ultimately, they need more goals. They're still passing up too many chances, too many opportunities. So I'd be amazed if he doesn't get another attacking player in before the window closes.
The Rangers fans are certainly feeling very confident in the comments. The Sniper says, the fact we're still in this title race with the way we started is unbelievable. JD says, at the start of the season, I was saying the league was over. To say that Rangers are now title contenders is incredible. What a season this is turning out to be. And we were debating it as well, Scott, before you come on there. For me, anyway, it's not just the fact that Rangers are where they are. There's a good feeling about Rangers now. You can see it in them, the way they play. They're confident. There's a feel-good factor about them.
100%. I don't think it's just the team, Dan. I think it's the supporters now as well, as you've just said in the comments. And there was a different feel to things today. It felt like it's been a long time since you heard that roar going up with a goal elsewhere, because that used to happen pretty regularly when Rangers and Celtic were fighting out for titles. They were neck and neck. It was interesting, obviously the club put out a video message during the week asking the crowd to raise the noise levels and get behind the team for the run-in. And at the start of the game, you could sense that, as if the punters felt a kind of responsibility. But the first half was probably still a bit quiet. They weren't creating many chances. It was difficult for them to break Dundee down, as I said. But I must admit, towards the end, the crowd did really get behind them. And Danny Rohl just said in his press conference there, it was brilliant. They obviously do this lap of honour that all these teams seem to do now on the pitch at full time. And he said when he came in October, there was like a big 50-metre distance between the players and the fans as they're walking down the pitch. Now they're a bit closer, and you can feel there's that connection's coming back. And it's hard for these punters because we've been through so many hard times. It's probably understandable that the atmosphere here hasn't been great for a while. Even thinking the start of this season under Russell Martin, how disastrous it was and how bad the football was to watch. So it's almost like it's taken a lot for them to start believing in Rohl and believing in this team. But I definitely felt today was a kind of turning point with that, just with the result at Tynecastle, the fact that they've closed the gap again, getting those 2 late goals, really good goals as well. The noise levels definitely went up, and I think Rangers are going to need that between now and the end of the season if it's going to be neck and neck between these 3 teams.
I think there's trust issues there, Scott. I think that these supporters have turned up season after season, seen the same failings, great expectations, not met by what they're witnessing on the pitch. There's a lot of scar tissue. There's some players there that have been there for a while. I think Chris Sutton, what did he call James Tavernier, a perennial loser or something like that, which is savage. Yeah. But I think there is an element of that, and the Rangers supporters, as much as they love the idea of this, I think that some of them, because of what the previous experience have led to, some of them will be a little bit afraid to really fall in behind this right now because they've probably seen this movie too many times. Although this does feel like a different version of the movie, doesn't it? Because it's been a while since Rangers have put themselves into such a kind of strong position going into the running.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jacko. You can tell the punters are finding it hard to trust a Rangers team.
Yeah.
Again, they've been burned so many times. They just refuse to believe it, almost, that they might actually be in this title race. But as I say, that's why today felt like a wee turning point for them. With that other result going the way most of them kind of wanted it to go, with Hearts and Celtic dropping points, and then getting the victory in a really a difficult game from Dundee, as I say, made it really hard. So I think you're spot on. There is trust issues, and it's going to. Listen, it's taken a long time. There's still a bit to go. There's still a long way to go in this title race. Let's face it, the Rangers, they could still finish third, and come May. And obviously, at the start of the season, you'd have said that's nowhere near good enough. Now, that's obviously a lot to do with the start they made. But I think now fans are starting to believe, right, we're actually in this, as I say, 8 wins in the spin, a load of clean sheets. I don't know the exact numbers. But they're looking a lot more solid, structured, organised, things we spoke about on Thursday night, the way Danny Rohl's kind of changed them. And as I say, if he can add 1 or 2 more in January, especially in the attacking areas that we're talking about, then that will help them come forward.